I think I'm able to have a very nice life in Germany now. I don't feel any different at my job because I'm a foreigner. It doesn't make any difference. And I've learned a lot in Germany, for both my life and my work. I've learned to be punctual. I can contribute something new. That's positive and makes my life for my friends and myself a bit richer.
Aravena Gross says goodbye to Berlin and to her 2 daughters. The next day she'll be taking off for Chile. Anna wants to see the home she left behind in 1987.
For many years I didn't feel like going back to my home country. Now I'm just curious. I'm sure I'll be too excited to sleep tonight. I love coming here to watch the city every time I come back to Chile. I have lots of memories. When I lived here, I used to come here often with my family on Sundays. I loved living here. I never did plan to leave this country.
The capital, Santiago, is the primary destination of any visit to Chile. Ana spent the greater part of her life in this city. She went to school and to university here. A new skyscraper is going up that will tower above all the other buildings in the downtown area. Ana meets up with her former architecture professor, Orlando Vigoru.
This stands as a symbol of how things are in Chile right now. The capitalists have made themselves at home in this country. There's a German-Chilean businessman called Horst Paulmann, and his motto is growth and even more growth. That's what this skyscraper stands for. It's already the tallest in South America. I think the Chileans have changed. They've got colder and louder. I don't know if you've noticed it yet. They're no longer as timid and low-key. They're more demanding, and of course they act like they're not in South America.
Orlando was different from all the other professors. He was more open. You could talk freely with him about anything, even about politics, and that was very important to us.
Can you remember when you were living here? The army was always out on the streets at night. There was a curfew. The putsch had changed everything from one day to the next. A political project came to an abrupt end, and all at once, night fell. Now, a new day has started. I'm still not pleased with the political climate, but that has nothing to do with what happened back then. That was like a different country.
Mention September the 11th and the Chileans don't think of New York City. They think of the putsch against Salvador Allende in 1973.
What Ana now calls the turning point in her life came suddenly in February 1987. Early one morning, a detachment of secret police burst into the apartment where she lived with her then husband. They handcuffed the couple and took them to one of the most feared places in Santiago at the time, the Borgoño Detention Center. The police were known to torture their victims there. The only cause for the couple's arrest was the fact that a man wanted for subversive activities had been hiding in the area.
This is the first time that I've even seen where I was kept, because I was transported here blindfolded, so I can only remember sounds. As soon as I arrived, I was interrogated. At the same time, my husband was being physically tortured. I heard his screams from my cell. At first, I didn't want to come here, or even think about it. Now it's an extremely strange feeling. On the one hand, I can remember very clearly the fear that I felt then. On the other hand, now I sense a great inner calm. The day of my arrest changed my entire life. It's the reason I left my country. At that time, at the age of 22, I never imagined my life would go this way.
About an hour's drive northwest of Santiago on the Pacific coast is the port city of Valparaiso. Most of the relatives Ana has left in Chile live here.
Está más linda, oye, no sé.
Más linda que antes, ¿no? No era tan linda antes. Sí.
Almost all her immediate family, her parents and her sister, emigrated to the United States in the 1990s. So a visit with her Uncle Guillermo and Aunt Cecilia is on the itinerary for her trips to her home country.
Bien también, un poquito chascona.
Bueno.
Valparaiso is my family city. My parents were born here, and my sister and I were too. It's also the city we have to travel to whenever something happens in the family, whether it's happy or sad.
Es sei glücklich oder auch traurig.
This time the occasion is a sad one. Ana's cousin, Paula's husband, died suddenly a few weeks before. He left behind his wife and 3 children.
Pero muy lindo su marido.
Me quedo con lo mejor de él, era un buen padre.
Sí.
Era súper bueno.
The conversation eventually comes around to the last major earthquake.
Bueno, y entonces
Oh, there's a crack here, but it's not that bad, is it?
No.
If the crack had been horizontal, it would have been bad.
The motion was like this. It was like a wave. You couldn't even walk upright.
I remember when a piece of a wall fell on Grandma's leg.
Hier in Chile, wir wissen,
Here in Chile, we know an earthquake can strike at any moment. Of course, we consider the worst case. Anything can happen. You could lose everything you own. But we live with it. Nobody complains about it. We say, I'm thankful that all the people in my home are still alive, because we know it could have been much worse.
Schlimmer sein können.
For me, Valparaiso is the city of my memories. When I walk through the alleyways, all the old memories come back to me straight away. Playing with my sister in the streets, running around, walks with our parents. And I get the feeling that there are many corners where time has stood still. Valparaiso was the city we always spent the summer in.
Signs point to an escape route in case of a tsunami. In northern Chile, too, another violent earthquake could occur at any time.
The North didn't used to belong to Chile. I learned in school that there was a war against Bolivia and Peru, and Chile won. And that's how we came into possession of the north of the country. And Bolivia no longer has access to the sea.
An hour's drive inland, in the middle of the Atacama desert, Ana calls on her cousin Guillermo. He's a mining engineer at a copper mine. He doesn't have much time for Ana, just enough to explain to her the importance of mineral wealth for Chile.
I think it makes up 95% of the country's overall economic output. You have to bear in mind that Chile only sells raw materials. We don't export technology or expertise. At most, we've got the fisheries industry and the fruit plantations. That's where our revenues come from.
Guillermo recommends a peek into the world's largest open-pit copper mine, the Chuquicamata mine. The excavators have eaten their way some 1,000 meters down. The Herculean feat pays off as the price of copper leaps upward year for year.
Actually, with all its mineral wealth, this country could be very rich. But only a few people profit from it. That's how it's always been.
The Atacama Desert is the driest desert on Earth, but it's overflowing with treasures. Copper, lithium, gold, and platinum are all here in relative abundance.
The last time I was out here in the desert was when I was a young college student. Even back then, this landscape fascinated me. I can find peace here. Even in such a small area, there are the most incredible contrasts. When we drive along the coastline in the north, again and again I see how beautiful and diverse Chile is.
The next leg of Ana's journey takes her more than 1,000 kilometers south to Copiapó, where she meets her old friend, Christian Perez.
At
first I was surprised that he had to go to work for the police. Just like me and all our friends, Christian was politically active. He was part of the leftist crowd. We were always at demonstrations.
The one-time street fighter has gone from masking his own face to sketching faces of suspects based on witnesses' descriptions. His work goes to help police detectives track down criminals.
Supongamos que no tenía tanta ceja, entonces empezamos. Aquí viene mi jefe, Esteban Chávez.
Christian Perez's boss joins the conversation. He reassures Ana that today's police force has nothing to do with the one from the time of the military dictatorship.
Ordinary people can come to us and they can have a look at our working methods. Anyone can come here. Everything's open. That's a small but very decisive difference to the way it used to be. The police used to do everything in secret, behind closed doors. We're working towards European or North American standards. We want to be the best police force in Latin America.
The dictatorship no longer exists, of course, but I think the old structures still do. That can't be changed so quickly. And to judge by what I hear from people, the anxiety is still there.
Gibt es auch noch das Gefühl von Angst.
Ay, puta que demoraron. ¿Por qué llegaron tan tarde? Yo no, así.
Ana's known Christian since their school days. He says he took the job with the police because it was time he started earning a steady income. And after all, he'd studied art.
Christian
always has been a good drawer. It's really too bad that he can't live from his art. I think it must be very hard to find the money and the time for art in Chile nowadays.
Antes había más solidaridad, más entendida. Yo creo que ahora
there used to be more solidarity. Today, it all comes down to the market. Everything has its price. Nobody does anything unless they get something in return. It's all about business now. Everyone's for himself, and everyone's in competition with everybody else.
Another 2,000 kilometers south, amid thick forests, live Ana's former in-laws, Dogo and Carlotta.
Hola.
Die beide sind fast meine zweite Familie.
The two are almost like a second family to me. They were very important to me at the time I left the country. When I first got to know them, you could say Dogo was a complete hippie. He already had the long hair and beard he still wears today, and they were trying to live outside of society a bit. They sympathized with Allende and believed in the dream of building a new and just society. But they dropped out, and now they live in this magnificent countryside.
After the putsch, Dogo and Carlotta lost their jobs. They fled into the Chilean wilderness. In the late 1980s, after the end of the dictatorship, they watched from a distance as the Concertación, the coalition of democratic parties, took its first steps.
Many Chileans hoped that the Concertación would lead to a more left-oriented society, one that would really govern for the people. But we've been disappointed. Each president has been worse than the one before.
Nos fueron desilusionando un presidente al otro.
It's very hard to get the social development moving again. We're observing the whole process from the outside, because we just can't identify with what's happening now in this country.
The south is very different. It rains a lot here, and it's very green. I came down here often as a teenager. The nature is magnificent.
Back in the capital, Santiago. In a dry cleaner's in a big shopping center, Ana meets a woman she hasn't seen for 25 years. She had contacted Sara again through the internet.
Sara
is a friend from my childhood. We were neighbors and played together until I was 7 or 8 years old. Then, unfortunately, life separated us and we went our own ways. I went to university and got a degree, and she didn't. There you are, and here I am with the glasses. There are your papa and mama. They're dancing. Look, there I am, the girl with the glasses when I was as old as you are. What was I like?
You were quiet.
Really?
Yes, because you were the smallest of all of us.
I think there was more space here then, wasn't there?
Yeah, we even rode our bikes here.
That's right, we rode our bikes here.
Sara is a divorced mother of 3.
It's a constant struggle, a constant economic struggle with my children. I want to give them a good education so they'll be happy and have good professions. They make me happy, but I can't offer them very much. In the material sense, I mean. I can't give them the very best.
What do you really think of my being abroad? Of the fact that I live in Germany?
It's something I would have liked to have done someday. Travel. I think it's fantastic. You found your happiness far away. I can see you're happy by the photos. You have a family of your own.
It was very emotional for me, very surprising, very intense. We talked a lot about our childhoods. I enjoyed it a lot.
Ana has only a few more hours before she takes off back to Berlin. Time for a few last photos and a walk to La Moneda, the presidential palace.
I don't think I would have ever even spoken to a police officer before, because I would have had the feeling that no matter what I said, it could be dangerous. The feeling that today I can stand here in front of La Moneda and talk to a policeman quite calmly and no longer be afraid is very important to me and all my fellow citizens, probably the most important of all. At first I didn't feel like coming back here at all, but for some time now I felt that it's all right. It gets easier and easier for me to imagine that I might move back someday, after all. There will probably always be a scar. It was very painful for me to leave my country. But every trip back helps to heal it a bit more.
Das zu heilen.